right, so we would like to reconvene the California Veterinary Medical Board meeting, starting with establishment of a quorum.
Dr. Solocito,
Here.
Ms. Pulowski,
Here.
Dr. Bradbury,
Here.
Mr. Espinoza,
Here.
Dr. Maniak,
Here.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Ms. Orlowski, Dr. Tomlinson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. I guess our agenda for today would be a special order of business. So I would like to turn it over to our dear judge.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am Judge Dietrich with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I will be presiding over our two petition matters today. I'm going to start off by checking in to make sure that both of our petitioners are here, and then I'm going to go over some initial instructions, and then we'll get started with our hearings. Do we have Dr. Carpenter here? Good morning. And do we have Dr. Canfield here? Good morning. The first one we'll hear is Dr. Carpenter's case. Dr. Carpenter, why don't you come on forward? Then I'm just going to check in with both of you to make sure, first of all, go ahead and grab a seat. Thank you. Whoa, okay. All right, and then you'll want to speak into the microphone just so we can all hear you. And can you make sure it's on? There's a little button on the side and you should see a green light.
How's that?
Sounds perfect to me. Dr. Carpenter, were you able to get onto Case Center and see the documentary exhibits, basically what we call the petition packet and the prior record of discipline? Were you able to get that?
I did yesterday.
Okay. And Dr. Canfield, were you able to get that those documents as well? Okay. So the general order of the proceeding that will follow for both petitions is the Deputy Attorney General, and it's Ms. Tassan, correct? Tassin. Okay, good morning. She's going to first present some background on the matter. The purpose of that is to give the board a history of the prior discipline, the burden of proof to establish that each of the petitioners is entitled to early termination of probation is on the petitioner themselves. So meaning you have to present evidence to the board to establish that you're entitled to the relief you're seeking. After the Deputy Attorney General presents her evidence, you will have the opportunity to testify on your own behalf under oath. You also may call additional witnesses on your own behalf if you choose to do so. And then you also, I did see both parties submitted some documentation with your petitions. If you have additional documentation in support of your petition, you also can submit that at your hearing. After we are concluded with the presentation of your testimony, the Deputy Attorney General will have the opportunity to question you, and then each of the members of the board will have the opportunity to question you. After both petition hearings are concluded, the board is going to go into closed session. They are going to then deliberate and make a decision on the petition. You are not going to find out about the outcome of your petition today. There's going to be a written decision that's issued sometime in the future, and then you will receive that petition in the mail, or sorry, that decision in the mail. Dr. Carpenter, did you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, I do not.
Okay, and Dr. Canfield, any questions? Okay. And some of this information, once we actually formally start the hearing, I will do a truncated version of that presentation when we're on the record, just to confirm you are fully advised of those rights. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. With that, I think we are ready to go on the record. We are on the record before the California Veterinary Medical Board to review the petition for early termination of probation of Ryan Scott Carpenter. This is Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2026010245 and Veterinary Medical Board of California case number, California Veterinary Medical Board case number 4602021000379. My name is Christopher Dietrich. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter. Before we went on record today, it was established that a quorum of the board is present. This matter is being electronically recorded by the board, and that will constitute the record of this proceeding. May I please have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Deputy Attorney General Neva Tassin appearing on behalf of the Attorney General's office.
Thank you. And also present is the petitioner Ryan Scott Carpenter. And you have chosen to represent yourself today, sir. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Before we went on the record, I did explain the procedures that we are going to follow today. As I explained, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to present the petition and provide a background orientation on this matter. After that, the petitioner will have the right to make a presentation under oath on his own behalf to explain why he believes that his petition should be granted. The petitioner may also call witnesses to testify on his own behalf. Petitioner and any witnesses will be subject to questioning by the board and the Deputy Attorney General. The board is particularly concerned with any rehabilitation that the petitioner may have engaged in, and the petitioner is reminded that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition package, so it is not necessarily to repeat all the information that is contained within that package. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate, and a decision will be issued in writing sometime in the near future. Dr. Carpenter, any questions before we get going?
No, I do not.
Okay. With that, we will proceed to the hearing, starting with the presentation of the Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to direct your attention to what's been labeled as Exhibit 1. This is the notice of hearing, license certification, petition for early termination of probation. It also contains respondent's written statement, a letter from the American College of Veterinary Surgeons, respondent's CV, letters of support, continuing education certificates, and then the decision and order effective June 19, 2023. And attached to that is the accusation, which was filed on June 23rd, 2022. Next is the probation compliance report. And lastly, communications between probation and respondent. I asked that this be marked and admitted for all purposes.
Thank you. So, Dr. Carpenter, did you have any objection to the board considering any of those documents just mentioned?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted for all purposes.
Next, Exhibit 2 is an index. I asked that this be marked, and if the court would like to admit it, I defer to the court.
I generally don't have a need to mark the exhibit or admit the index rather, so I will just mark it.
Thank you. Here's the timeline of the events in this case. On June 20, 2025, the board issued veterinarian license number VET 15878 to respondent. On March 21, 2020, a board inspector performed an inspection of respondent's mobile unit at the Santa Anita racetrack. On May 15, 2020, subject matter expert J.H. performed an inspection of Equine Medical Center where respondent was employed, and he obtained medical records for 12 equine patients treated by respondent. The board received veterinarian confidential reports from the California Horse Racing Board, the CHRB, documenting the equine patients treated by respondent from January 2021 to March 2021. That January date may be incorrect, and I'll look into that. Veterinarians are required to submit veterinarian confidential reports to the CHRB for horses treated at any CHRB regulated location. These reports revealed that clusters of equine patients were administered identical medications and treatments at the same time without medical necessity. The reports revealed that respondent treated approximately 3,633 equine patients over 68 workdays. That's an average of 53 horses per workday. On June 23rd, 2022, an accusation was filed with the following causes for discipline. 1, negligence. Respondent prescribed, dispensed, and administered a drug, medication, appliance, application, or treatment to animal patients without performing an appropriate examination and forming a diagnosis of any condition that required treatment to 25 horses. 2, unprofessional conduct. Respondent dispensed unnecessary dangerous drugs to equine patients without medical necessity between January 2019 and March 2021 on over 700 occasions. 3, unprofessional conduct, prescribing a controlled substance without legitimate medical purpose in March of 2020. 4, unprofessional conduct, failure to establish a veterinary client patient relationship before administering, prescribing, dispensing, or furnishing a drug, medicine, application, or treatment over 700 occasions. 5, record-keeping violations between January 2019 and March 2020. For each of the 27 horses referenced here, there were multiple record-keeping violations. 6, unprofessional conduct, selling, delivering, holding, or offering for sale drugs that are misbranded on 11 occasions. 7, unprofessional conduct, respondent failed to maintain a log of drugs administered, dispensed, and prescribed from his mobile unit. 8, unprofessional conduct, possession or use of prohibited drugs not FDA approved on over 550 occasions between January 2019 and March 2021. And lastly, the 9th cause for discipline, from January 2019 to February 2021, respondent failed to provide required drug consultations for prescribed, dispensed, or furnished dangerous drugs for 11 horses. The accusation resolved with a stipulated settlement effective June 19, 2023. Respondent agreed that there was a factual basis for the causes for discipline, agreed not to contest those facts, and agreed that his license is subject to discipline. Respondent's license was revoked and the revocation was stayed. Respondent was placed on probation for 4 years with standard terms and conditions. And in addition to those standard terms and conditions, inspections, medical records review, continuing education, and a $3,000 fine. On June 20, 2025, respondent filed his petition for early termination of probation with the following attachments: a written statement, a letter from the American College of Veterinary Surgeons, a CV, 2 letters of support, and 10 continuing education certificates. On September 2, 2025, the probation monitor mailed respondent a notice of probation violation letter because respondent had not provided the board that there was proof of notice to employees posted at Southern California Equine Foundation, along with the decision and order and underlying accusation. On September 6, 2025, respondent emailed photos showing this notice to employees was now posted. On September 27, 2025, and August 9, 2025, September 27, 2024, and August 9, 2025, petitioner's mobile unit in connection with Equine Medical Center was inspected. No corrections were needed from petitioner. On December 24, 2025, respondent's probation monitor drafted a probation compliance report. And aside from the one instance regarding the posting of notice to employees, respondent is fully compliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tassin. Dr. Carpenter, next thing I'm going to do is swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name for the record.
Ryan Carpenter, or Ryan Scott Carpenter, RyanScottCarpenter.
Thank you. So now is your opportunity to make your presentation under oath to the board. Since you don't have an attorney, you'll be testifying in the narrative format, which basically means you will tell the board what you want them to know. When you're finished with your statement, please let me know, and then I will hand it over for further questioning, okay?
I'd like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to meet with you this morning. I trust that after you reviewed my packet and have had the opportunity to ask me questions related to my rehabilitation, you'll see that I've taken this matter serious. I've implemented a number of changes in my practice, both in record keeping and style of practice, that will keep me in full compliance with the Veterinary Medical Board moving forward. These have now become my standard of practice over the last 2.5 years, and so they are what I do on a daily basis, and so there would be no need to deviate from that. So Really, I think what my accusation boils down to is record keeping violations. And what I learned through this process was that if you didn't write it down, then it didn't take place. And that was something that, up until this point, I was a practitioner for about 15 years. I was under the false assumption that if I was submitting my veterinary records to the California Horse Racing Board on a daily basis, that I had my vehicle inspected by the California Veterinary Medical Board previous to this process, and that I had been sued and turned over my records to my attorneys, and they held up in court that I was doing a good job. It wasn't until this process that I realized that there were some deficiencies in our record-keeping software at Equine Medical Center and with what was required of us from the California Horse Racing Board. So these were immediately changed and addressed even prior to me signing my stipulated agreement. Equine Medical Center introduced a new computerized system via software that checks all the boxes, and now the California Horse Racing Board and HISA has a computerized medical record system that we are required to report to. That was not a requirement at the time that the records were requested. Had that been in place, then I firmly believe we wouldn't be sitting here this morning. So my records are complete, they're thorough and accurate. The importance of that is that if I ever needed to transfer my records to another veterinarian or to the owner, that they would be able to take that information and know exactly my thought process that I took place in the care of their animal. Additionally, there are some medication violations that I addressed in my narrative. And if you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to. But there were essentially conflicting rules and regulations between the California Horse Racing Board and the California Veterinary Medical Board. And so moving forward, what I've done is I've defaulted to the most conservative view. Whatever agency has the most conservative view is what I follow. So even though there are continual discrepancies between agencies, I default to the most conservative approach so that I don't run the risk of being in the position that I am in today. So thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate being here and look forward to answering any questions you guys have.
Thank you. I will now hand it over for questioning by the Deputy Attorney General. One thing that is important for all parties when we're engaging in this type of questioning is to make sure that there's a pause between question and answer, both to make sure that the question is fully finished before you start answering, and also to make sure that our electronic record is clear, because if someone is referring back to that recording, they can't typically decipher when two voices are speaking at once. So
Okay.
that half-second pause is crucial.
You got it.
Go ahead, Ms. Tassin.
The accusation refers to a large number of horses that you treated in a 68-day period, 68 work days, 53 horses a day. How did that happen?
That is very standard in thoroughbred racetrack practice. We have currently 4 doctors in our practice, and there at Santa Anita alone, there are about 1,800 horses on grounds. The nature of our practice is we take care of large groups of individuals. So I have barns as little as 1 or 2 horses, and I have barns that trainers have as much as 50 or 60 horses. So it's not uncommon to examine and treat multiple horses every day. And the honest truth is, given what I'm doing today, 50 is probably a low number.
How long is the workday?
I usually get to work between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, and I finish when I'm done. My goal is to be done by 3 o'clock so I can pick up my kids from school. That doesn't happen very often. And so usually we're done by 5 o'clock, depending on if we're covering racing that afternoon. Sometimes it could be late as 7:30 or 8.
The accusation refers to substances, medications not approved by the FDA. Tell us more about how that happened.
So those medications, I believe, are specifically referred to the compounding medications that we were using. This is an example where I've decided to take the most conservative approach to how it is applied. It was my understanding, based on the California Horse Racing Board and the FDA, that there was a list of compounded medications that weren't completely approved for office stock, but were in the pipeline to be approved, that were able to be used in the manner that we were using them. It was then later explained to me that the California Veterinary Medical Board has a different interpretation of that, and therefore only in my practice, chloramphenicol could be approved for office stock. So taking that more conservative approach, I have essentially minimized my use of compounded medications. And when I do find the medical necessity to utilize it, it's for a specific patient, for a specific cause, for a specific period of time. That is all documented in the medical record and documented with the compounding pharmacy when the order is placed.
Tell us why it was your practice to not document the medical purpose for the medications dispensed, administered, et cetera.
So if you look back at confidential reports, the California Horse Racing Board required us to document the name of the animal, the trainer, the time, and any medication that was prescribed, dispensed, or given to the patient. We generally used billing codes for these things. And if you look at a typical style of practice, especially when you're working on a healthy group of individuals like we are, we use the same medications for the same treatments over and over again. And so while it wasn't written down, we discussed the condition and developed the treatment plan with the trainer and then prescribe the treatment. This is where I have changed my practice, and I have now documented the specific reason why everything is given, because that verbal conversation and agreement that we had doesn't meet the criteria for accurate medical records, because if it wasn't written down, it didn't take place.
From the records of the CHRB, there were these clusters of administering the same medication on the same day to multiple animals. Why is that?
Again, you have to look at what racetrack practice is. So, for example, in a barn of horses, we'll use trainer A, for example. He has 60 horses. They're all between 2 and 4 years of age. They're all athletes. They're all competitively training and racing. One medication that was brought to my attention was Adequan. Adequan is a therapeutic medication used to maintain joint health. Athletes can benefit from having better joints, less arthritis, and preserve their athletic careers. So it is not uncommon in racetrack practice to discuss these cases with the trainer, develop a treatment strategy on who Adequan is indicated for and who it's not, and then because the horses generally work on the weekends, because we race on the weekends and they're on a 7-day work schedule, to administer a therapeutic joint medication prior to a high-speed event in order to make sure they're at their peak competitive and best physiological status. And so when you have 50 essentially of the same horses, it's not uncommon to give 30 of them the same medication on the same day.
Because they're on the same timeline?
Because they're on the same timeline, correct.
Those are my questions for now. I will defer to the board and reserve if I have any other questions towards the end. Thank you.
Before I hand over to the board question, I just wanted to make sure my notes are complete. Doctor, you said that at the racetrack that there were a certain number of horses on the grounds as a whole, but I didn't catch the number. Would you mind repeating the number?
So generally at Santa Anita, there's somewhere between 16 and 1,800 horses on the grounds. And while I don't take care of all of them, our practice takes care of probably about a third of the horses.
And you mentioned a name of a medication, the medication for joint health. Would you mind spelling the name of that medication if you know how to spell it?
ADEQUAN.
Thank you. I'm now going to start with board questioning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on each board member following the order that their names appear on the agenda. I'm going to start off with Dr. Solicito.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor, for being here. I don't have any questions. I am not an equine practitioner, and so I don't think I would have any significant questions at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pawlowski.
Thank you for being here. I have a question as far as your medical records, and I appreciate you saying if it wasn't in the record, it didn't exist. What was the other most significant learning that you would say about your medical records? As far as I appreciate that, but what would you say was the biggest aha moment for you in doing your medical records?
Medical records are time consuming. And so one of the CE courses talked to us about developing templates for things that we do on a regular basis. That not only saves time, but also allows you to make sure all the boxes were checked. So for completeness. And so I developed a few templates for common conditions that we treat. For example, when I castrate a horse, it has a spot where I have to put in the TPR. I have to put in if the horse is sound at the walk and jog, if I palpate two testicles, or if the horse is a cryptorchid, things like that. That's all stuff that at the one point in time doesn't seem like a lot, but if you do it over and over again throughout your year, it's very time consuming. And so developing those types of things really helped me streamline some of those processes to have accurate, more complete medical records, and then also save time.
Thank you. And then when you talked about the medications and I want to use your terminology, but I can't for the life of me. I had it in my brain until I just asked you that question. And you were talking about the FDA medications of FDA approval, and that you learned that you wanted to be, and I can't, the way that you're using the medications now.
Yeah, most conservative approach.
Thank you, the most conservative approach. So can you tell me a little bit more about what exactly are you doing with the medications as far as like when you go in? Are you using the medications now appropriately? Just a little more specific with that.
Yeah, so I mean, we've always used the medications appropriately. We just, like I said, we didn't document the specific reason. So if you look through my medical records, every medication that I use has a valid reason. We're treating a specific cause. It's documented in the medical record. There's no compounded medications on my vehicle. Has been a practice philosophy since this took place. And so there are some specific instances where I will use a compounded medication, but like I said, it's documented for a specific case, but it's less than 1% of my practice.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Dr. Bradbury.
Good morning, Dr. Carpenter. Thanks for coming. I just wanted to highlight, I think for Christy even, that I really appreciated your comments about the medical records and how you realize that that it really helps to have thorough and accurate records for people coming after you and for the clients if something were to happen to you and all of that. I think that is for us the main purpose of having more thorough records is so that everyone knows what's going on, and if you're not there, someone else can. So and those confidentials just have no information on them.
Correct.
But it's an interesting thing. So anyway, I don't have any questions, but I appreciate that comment, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Espinoza.
Dr. Carpenter, thank you for being here today. You made reference to something that you saw with respect to conflict between the California Horse Racing Board, I guess, was it regulations, and those, I suspect, also in the California Veterinary Practice Act. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I mean, obviously not going to litany, but what are some of the conflicts that you saw that made it difficult for someone in your shoes?
Yeah, so the obvious conflict was the use of Thyro-L. So Thyroel is, if you read the accusation by the Veterinary Medical Board, illegal for me to have in my possession because it's not FDA approved. And there's an FDA approved formulation in tablet form. The problem is that the California Horse Racing Board had rules and regulations approved by the Office of Administrative Law that if you were to use Thyroel, you had to use it in this manner. So I used it in that manner, documented, and was in compliance with the California Horse Racing Board, but yet that was in direct violation of the California Veterinary Medical Board. As a practitioner, I was confused because we had rules and regulations both approved by the Office of Administrative Law that were in direct conflict. So unfortunately for me, I have to default to the most conservative approach, which is I can't use it. Unfortunately, Thyroel in equine practice is used widely. I can guarantee you most equine practitioners are still using it, and they are shocked when I tell them that it is a violation of the Veterinary Practice Act to have it in your possession. It's published in peer-reviewed research journals, and it is taught in veterinary schools on how to use it. It's one of the most widely prescribed and taught medications in equine practice. That's an example for me where I was confused because I thought I was following the rules and regulations set forth by the board that I interacted with on a daily basis and not the California Veterinary Medical Board, which I had minimal interactions with. Maybe every couple of years I would have a vehicle inspection from the California Veterinary Medical Board. So that was an area that was confusing to me. That's not an issue anymore because we don't use Thyroel anymore, and it's actually not approved by HISA for its approval, so you won't find it on the racetrack. So that discrepancy has been resolved in racing, but it has not been resolved in equine practice.
Dr. Carpenter, over the time period from when the allegation against you was first made up through your period of probation, has your thinking changed about whether there was a medical necessity for the use of all these drugs that you dispensed?
No, I mean, the short answer is no. All the medications that I dispensed and utilized where we are in line with racetrack practice and compliant with the Veterinary Medical Board. Where I failed was in not documenting it appropriately. And so now that I've documented it appropriately, it now checks the box for being compliant.
Your thinking changed about the necessity to form a veterinary client-patient relationship?
Again, this is a documentation issue again. I had a valid VPCR with all my clients, and in a lot of cases, we had signed veterinary agreements with trainers that we submitted to the racing jurisdictions when we were the primary care provider for their barn. But again, this was not reported in the medical record, so if it wasn't reported in the medical record, it didn't exist. But now it is reported in the medical record, so the VPCR is valid in the eyes of the state of California. It just wasn't documented appropriately prior to.
You made some reference, I believe, to some software changes. Can you explain to us how those software changes helped better document the work that you do?
Yeah, so there's two major software changes. The first one is the VIA, which is what we use within our practice within Equine Medical Center. The billing software that we had prior to that didn't have things like the singlement of the horse. So that is something that is required by the California Veterinary Medical Board to have in your medical record. The second thing is the California Horse Racing Board and HISA has instituted a computerized software, which we have to report every treatment we do by 10 o'clock the following morning. And in that, there is a box that says basically, what is your diagnosis? So we have to provide a reason and a rationale as to why we are prescribing or administering the medication that we use. So those two computerized systems for me constitute my medical record. That's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. That's what's been reviewed by my record keeping monitor and been spot checked by the California Veterinary Medical Board. And no discrepancies or inadequacies have been brought to my attention.
Before I move on to the next board member, would you mind spelling the name of the medication you were talking about earlier, the one that starts with an F?
F, Thyroel. THYRO, and then -L.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Maniak.
Hi, Dr. Carpenter. Thank you for coming today and speaking with us. With this experience that you've gone through in the last couple of years, I read in your letter that you have a willingness to go back to the opportunity of teaching and passing on, your experience and your learning. Um, in the experience that you've had in the last couple of years, what would be some of the things that you would pass on to, let's say, students and new graduates?
Yeah, so twofold. One, what I would tell a young grad is to not assume that the place you're going into work is compliant with the Veterinary Medical Board in terms of record keeping. I think it's hard as a new grad to, you're excited, you got a new job, just got hired by this practice. There's some older, more seasoned practitioners. And sometimes they're going to just say, well, that's the way we've always done it, so it's fine. I think you've got to do your due diligence and do your homework and make sure your medical records are up to par, even if the practice itself is not. And then, as hard as it would be, if the practice is not willing to conform to that, then I think you need to look for another job. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a bad spot in the future. It's just a matter of time. So that is something that I don't think any new grad even has on their radar, because they're just excited about getting their first job, making the first paycheck, and being a vet. They work really hard to accomplish that. But I think it's a real life scenario that needs to be brought to their attention. The second thing is just from a surgery standpoint. I love surgery. We do a lot of complicated orthopedic procedures at Santa Anita. It's the nature of the business. I enjoy teaching. I teach both nationally and internationally on our experiences. And like I said in my narrative, I get a lot of requests for people that want to come spend time with me. But because I cannot supervise students, interns, or residents, I have to say no. And I would love to have that opportunity to bring somebody young and enthusiastic along. Not only can I share my knowledge with them, but I always find that they challenge me when they ask questions. Sometimes the best way to define your treatment strategy is to be questioned by it. Not that they're doing it maliciously, but they're just looking through life through a slightly different lens than the way I was trained 20 years ago. And then, you can modify your approaches. I never want to be the vet that's stuck in my way. But if there's a new technique or a new procedure in place, then I want to be able to adapt to that. And sometimes just talking to the young residents or the young grads and seeing what's going on at universities is helpful in that manner.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Mitchell.
Good afternoon or morning, Dr. Carpenter. Thank you for being here. I am obviously not a veterinarian, and so I don't really have any specific questions, but I just want to comment. It sounds like you've really taken to heart all of the recommendations of the board and made a lot of really significant changes. And I think that's really important, and I appreciate that. And I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Orlowski, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tomlinson.
Dr. Carpenter, thank you so much for being here. I am an equine vet, and I really thank you for your leadership in the industry. But I am here today representing the consumers. Their worry were extensive, and the industry has changed immensely since this action has been brought about. Would you agree?
I would completely agree.
Is there anything that the industry has not yet done that you feel they need to do?
The thoroughbred industry?
Correct.
So I apologize, this is my soapbox, but since you asked, I'm going to tell you. I don't believe racehorses should be viewed solely as commodities, meaning that if a horse is injured, they shouldn't be discarded and gotten a new one. California has done an amazing job at valuing these horses and giving horses the opportunity for second careers. But this has been something that has been, industry led, meaning First Racing, Del Mar Thoroughbred Club, Los Alamitos, the thoroughbred owners of California, they've made this a priority. But unfortunately, that's not been reflected nationally. And as you know, horse racing is a national sport. And so what I would like to see our industry as a whole do is embrace the injured horse and give them an opportunity for a second career.
Thank you. For the edification of those who do not understand the reason, well, could you tell us about the homogeneity of your clients? They are 2 to 4-year-old thoroughbreds doing the same vocation, doing the same thing. Does that make it easier to do the same treatment for the same issue?
It does, yeah. And so I think that's a very good point. That if you look at my surgical practice is a perfect example. I tell people I don't do very many different types of surgeries, but I do a lot of surgery. And so where I would fix more condylar fractures, say in a month, compared to a referral clinic in the area that would do in a year or two, that's because I work on a very niche population. So it's similar to human medicine, where if you went to a surgeon, there might be a surgeon that just does elbows or just does hips or just does knees. That's my style of practice, is it's very specialized. And that's because I work, like you said, on a very select group of individuals that are all doing the same things. Whereas a lot of times as equine practitioners, you might have a jump horse, a rope horse, a kid's pony, a 30-year-old, geriatric, or a brand new newborn, and you might see those all in the same day. I'm not going to do that.
Right. I have no further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just double check to see if one more question. Go ahead.
Hi again. Sorry. Just this discussion about thyroL. How common is hypothyroidism in a 2 to 4-year-old thoroughbred? And it seems like it's used extensively in.
Not anymore.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in my opinion, it's not very common. There are some people, medicine clinicians, that believe there are subclinical cases that may not be reflected on the typical blood work parameters that we would use to document it. And that's why they were utilizing it. I didn't prescribe to that line of thinking, which is why I didn't use it very often. But I did use it when I felt it was indicated. But I don't use it anymore.
Okay. And it's been banned by the thyroL, or just using any thyroid supplement by HISA because of its performance enhancing?
Yeah, so it is my knowledge that it is completely banned by ISA.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Chair Solicito.
I just have a question, Doctor, with regards to the software change. So did you change to a more equine practice specific software, or because you mentioned earlier that the old software did not have the signalment and everything, and I'm familiar with VIA
Yeah.
for general practice in companion animals. But is this now a more equine specific software?
There are some specific modifications that were made within the VIA software to make it more aligned with equine practice. But VIA, like you said, it's a generalized software. Our record keeping software within Equine Medical Center prior to VIA was probably 20 plus years old. And so it just wasn't the newest version that needed to be in place.
And does VIA have like a regular upgrades, especially now with the development of and integration of AI technology? Is that something that is part of your software?
So that would actually be a better question for Dr. Canfield, because she's taken the lead for our practice to implement that. what I use primarily for my specific notes within my medical records is the required software for the CHRB and for HISA, because that's essentially real time for me. And the way I utilize the softwares, I can provide more real time accurate information in that, and then I can merge the two to make my complete medical record.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just see if any further board members have questions. Seeing none. Dr. Carpenter, any further statement you wish to make at this time?
No.
And Ms. Tassin, any further questions?
Stipulated to 4 years of.
Microphone, please.
In the stipulation, it's for 4 years of probation. Why should the board be considering early termination?
Well, I think I've demonstrated to the board that I've taken it serious. I've implemented strategies that have changed basically my style of practice and my record keeping. These have now become common and I would consider them routine in my daily basis. And so I believe that I have fulfilled and met all the requirements and expectations from the board, and that I've been rehabilitated and able to move forward in a positive manner.
Thank you.
Anything further, sir?
No.
Okay. And did you have any further witnesses you wish the board to hear from?
No.
And other than the documents you submitted with your petition, any additional documents for the board?
No.
Okay. I will now ask if the matter is submitted. What that means is that both parties have presented the information they wish to present, and the matter is then submitted to the board for their decision. Is the matter submitted, Doctor?
Yes.
Ms. Tassin?
Yes.
With that, the matter is submitted. The record is closed, and we are off the record. Thank you for being here today, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to take a break from the buildings? Okay. I'm going to pass it back to the chair.
All right, so we'll take about 10-minute break, and we'll be, what time is it?
9:47.
9:47. Why don't we come back at 10 o'clock? Okay, recess for 15 minutes.
And then Dr. Canfield, Dr. Canfield, please come at 10 o'clock. Just please come forward to the table, okay? Thank you.
Got that, Bradbury?
Okay, we'll reconvene agenda item 16, special order of business, item B.
All right. Yep. Yes, thank you. All right. Good morning. We are now going to resume the petitions for early termination of probation. The next matter is the petition of Kathleen Canfield. I'm going to now go on the record. We are on the record before the California Veterinary Medical Board to review the petition for early termination of probation of Kathleen Suzanne Canfield. Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2026010238, and board case number 4602021001575. My name is Christopher Dietrich. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to preside over this matter. Before we went on record, it was established that a quorum of the board is present. This matter is being electronically recorded by the board, and that recording shall constitute the record of this hearing. May I please have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Deputy Attorney General Neva Tassin appearing on behalf of the Attorney General's office.
Thank you. And also present today is the petitioner Kathleen Canfield, and you are representing yourself today, is that correct?
Correct.
As we did with the prior matter, I do have some matters I need to explain at the outset of the hearing. Before we went on record, I did give an initial introduction about the hearing procedures. As I explained, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to present the petition and provide an orientation in this matter. After that, the petitioner has the right to make a presentation under oath on her own behalf to explain why she believes that she is entitled to the relief sought in the petition. You may also call witnesses to testify on your own behalf or on your behalf. The petitioner and any witnesses will be subject to questioning by the board and the Deputy Attorney General. The board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation that the petitioner may have engaged in, and you are reminded that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition packet, and it is not necessary to repeat all the matters stated within that package. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. You will not receive a decision today, but will receive it in the mail sometime in the future. Did you have any questions?
No.
I will now hand it over to the Deputy Attorney General for her presentation. Go ahead.
I'd like to direct the court to what's been labeled as Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1 contains the following documents: the notice of hearing, respondent's license certification, or petition for early termination of probation, respondent's written statement, respondent's CV, letters of support, continuing education certificates, the decision and order effective June 19, 2023, with the attached accusation filed April 8th, 2022, and lastly, the probation compliance report. I ask that this be marked and admitted.
Dr. Canfield, did you have any objection to any of those documents being considered by the board?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Next, Exhibit 2. This is just an index. I ask that this be marked.
So marked.
Thank you. Here is a timeline of the events in this case. On June 13, 1997, the board issued veterinarian license number VET 12992 to respondent. On June 15, 2025, the board issued premises registration number HSP 6058 to respondent Canfield as managing licensee of the premises, Canfield Equine Practice, Inc. On April 4, 2020, a board inspector performed an inspection of respondent's mobile unit at a racetrack. On May 15, 2020, subject matter expert J.H. performed an inspection of Equine Medical Center where respondent was employed and obtained medical records for patients treated by respondent. Afterward, the board received veterinarian confidential reports from the California Horse Racing Board documenting the equine patients treated by respondent from January 2021 to March 2021. Veterinarians are required to submit veterinarian confidential reports to the CHRB for horses treated. The reports revealed that respondent Canfield treated approximately 2,288 equine patients over 59 workdays, which is an average of 38 horses per day. The reports also revealed that clusters of equine patients were administered identical medications and treatments at the same time without medical necessity. On April 8, 2022, an accusation was filed in this matter, and there are 9 causes for discipline. First, negligence. Respondent prescribed, dispensed, and administered a drug, medication, appliance, application, or treatment to animal patients without performing an appropriate examination and forming a diagnosis of any condition that required treatment to 15 horses. Second, unprofessional conduct. Dispensed unnecessary dangerous drugs to equine patients without medical necessity between April 2019 and April 2020 to 15 horses. Unprofessional conduct is the third cause for discipline. Failure to establish a veterinary client-patient relationship before administering, prescribing, dispensing, or furnishing a drug, medicine, application, or treatment to approximately 15 horses. 4, negligence and failure to comply with the requirements when administering anesthesia to 2 horses in 2020. 5, record-keeping violations between July 2019 and April 2020. For each of the 15 horses referenced, multiple record-keeping violations were found. 6, unprofessional conduct, selling, delivering, holding, or offering for sale drugs that are misbranded on 2 occasions. 7, unprofessional conduct, possession or use of prohibited drugs not FDA approved on 55 occasions between July 2019 and March 2021. 8, from July 2019 to August 2020, respondent failed to provide required drug consultations for prescribed, dispensed, or furnished dangerous drugs on 11 occasions. And lastly, unprofessional conduct, altering medical records for 3 horses. With an effective date of June 19, 2023, the accusation resolved with a stipulated settlement with the following terms. Respondent agreed that there was a factual basis for the causes for discipline, agreed not to contest those facts, and agreed that her license was subject to discipline. Her license was revoked and the revocation stayed. Her license and permit was placed on probation for 4 years with standard terms and conditions, as well as inspections, medical records review, continuing education, and a $3,000 fine. June 30, 2025, respondent filed her petition for early termination of probation with the following attachments: her statement, her CV, 2 letters of support, and 22 continuing education certificates. While on probation, on September 27, 2024 and August 9, 2025, petitioner's mobile unit in connection with Equine Medical Center was inspected and no corrections were needed from petitioner. On December 24, 2025, the probation monitor in this case drafted a probation compliance report showing that respondent is fully compliant with all terms and conditions. There is one correction we made on this report. The probation duration is in fact 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I am now going to turn over to Dr. Canfield. First thing I'm going to do is administer an oath to you. Go ahead, Council.
My apologies, Your Honor and Board. This is Tara Welch, Board Counsel. I just wanted to let everyone know that one of the board members has left the hearing room briefly. There's an illness. So I wanted to raise this issue to the administrative law judge before the petitioner brings their evidence to determine whether or not we should take a break so that the board member can return and hear all of the evidence from petitioner, or if you would like to proceed without the board member.
So the consequence, I'll raise that with the board and with the petitioner. The consequence would be that the board member who is absent, if he is not present to hear all of the evidence, he would not be able to participate in those deliberations. It would be possible to take a break if the chair wished to do so to permit that. And as a question, do we have a timeline, an estimate of when he may be gone, or unknown? Did you want to?
Perhaps we could try a 15-minute break, and then that way maybe we might be able to get some more information from the board member
Yeah,
directly.
I would agree. If we could give him.
I'll take it to it. I'll
15
hand over to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess we'll take a 15-minute break then, and we'll reconvene on this matter at 10:25. Thank you. We're off the record.
So we would like to reconvene our session for our special order of business, and I would like to hand it over to Judge Dietrich.
Thank you. We are now back on the record for the petition for early termination of probation of Kathleen Canfield. The Deputy Attorney General is present, petitioner is present, as well as the entire board. We are now going to proceed with the petitioner's presentation of evidence. So I'm now going to swear you in at this time. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. May I put your hand down? Please state and spell your full name for the record.
Kathleen Suzanne Canfield, Cathaleen Canfield.
Thank you. Dr. Canfield, since you don't have an attorney, you will present your testimony in the narrative format, which basically means that you will tell the board what you want them to know. It's important that you speak slowly and clearly because I'm going to be taking notes, and I'm sure some of the board members will be taking notes as well. When you're finished with your statement, please just let me know that you're done. I will then hand it over to the Deputy Attorney General for her questioning and then to the board for their questioning. All right?
Okay.
All right. Floor is yours.
Okay. I'd like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to have this hearing and to answer any questions that you have about my case. When I did receive my accusation, we took the accusation seriously and I read the Practice Act to try to find out what we were doing wrong in regards to our medical records. We instituted a new PracticeWare software system that I researched and found a new software system that would allow the doctors in our practice to make much better medical records and to fulfill all the requirements that the Veterinary Medical Board required of us. Also, during that time, the CRTRB instituted a digital record-keeping system for us that would take place of our confidential reports that we were turning in by 10 a.m. the next day. So now those reports are all digitally recorded. The information does need to still be turned in by 10 a.m. the next day for those records as well. In order to educate myself about the Practice Act, I've taken continuing education courses, and I've also attended the webinars that the Veterinary Medical Board put on about what to inspect when you're inspected, as well as, I believe, the misbranded drug webinar. I found those all very helpful and very informational about what we needed to do, and it was also helpful just to see what other practices were doing right or doing wrong. And I just want to say that we're writing on our confidentials, the treatments. I would occasionally, of course, not in all cases, write down the reason why I was giving a medication, maybe on the first day, like if the horse had a cellulitis. So I did make some notes on my confidentials reports, and that those were turned in the next day. They weren't complete, and I realized they were not up to the standards, the minimum standards of the Veterinary Medical Board. I was just so focused on the California Horse Racing Board regulations at that time, and all my fellow veterinarians and colleagues, that's all kind of what we were all focused on. And it was an oversight on all of our parts that we should have been more focused on the Veterinary Medical Board regulations as well. As far as a valid client-patient relationship, I just want to say that I was doing exams on all the horses, and we were reaching diagnoses with the trainers, and I was discussing treatment plans, and they were all given options, and that's what we discussed, and that's how I proceeded with my patient care. And I just did not document those exams appropriately. And that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now hand it over to our Deputy Attorney General. Go ahead.
The last cause for discipline in this matter was altering medical records. This is for 3 horses in the fall of 2020. What happened there?
So that was an inspection before the accusation. And so I have my own premise for Canfield equine practice. And I mostly do that for horses that are on the racetrack, but I mostly do dentistries. And so I have my own practice premise permit for that. So I can order medications for that. And so when she came and inspected me, she asked for medical records. And so I asked her, and it was at the racetrack, and I said, okay, you want records from Canfield equine practice? And she said, correct. And so those were the records that I turned in, was from Canfield equine practice. And then a few months later, I got I don't know if it's email or a phone call saying that they did not want those records, that they wanted records from the racetrack practice, which I assume they meant Baker Equine, which is the majority, well, all of the horses in my accusation are from the Equine Medical Center with Dr. Baker. So in the request, it said that they wanted records from Equine Medical Center. So I had written notes on my confidentials. So what I did is that I went through my confidentials during the time period and found horses that I had done soap notes on and typed them up and submitted those. At the time, I asked my lawyer what the problem was with that, why they were saying they weren't factual, because they're based on my confidential notes that I had turned in. And she
Dr. Kemp, I just want to advise you, you do not have to state you're entitled to have confidential conversations with your attorney. So
Okay.
it's generally not a good idea to relate these statements that specifically are made by your attorney. That being said, if you want to speak to your understanding about those
Okay.
notes.
My understanding was she did not get any clarification on the matter. So I was not told what wasn't factual. All I can say is I typed up my notes that I'd written on my confidentials and turned them in.
So you augmented the records after there was a request for the patient records.
I didn't augment them. It said if they were handwritten, to type them, and that's what I did. And I turned in just the typewritten notes. I did not turn in the confidentials, but I turned in the typewritten notes because that's what it said to do.
You turned in content from the confidentials that were not yet in the patient's medical record.
Well, they were in the confidentials, which at that time I considered my medical record.
And what have you learned since then?
I've learned now that, so like in our software now, we have a place where we can sign off any medical record that we do. And I've learned that if you want to make any corrections or add any information, I make a separate note, and it's dated that day that the separate note is added to the medical record. And I made separate templates within the software to facilitate that as well.
Thank you for explaining that. Let's talk about thyroid L. What is this used to treat?
So in general equine practice, it's used a lot for horses with laminitis to help with their insulin resistance and to get their laminitis under control. At the racetrack, it was mostly used for horses that came in and they just weren't getting fit. Like they still had a high body score. They looked kind of fat. They didn't look muscular. So that was my understanding of what most people were using it for. I did not prescribe it often at all. In fact, I think there was just one record that I turned in during the time frame that the dates that were requested for that. And that was actually a horse that got transferred from another trainer and was on Thyro-L, and It's written on my confidentials because at that time we had to write down the reason we were giving it. And I said that the discussion with the trainer was, I don't think this horse really needs Thyro-L and that we're going to wean the horse off for a month. And so he was just given a month's supply and then the horse was discontinued from the Thyro-L.
Is there a potential for performance enhancement from the use of Thyroid-L?
In my opinion, I haven't noticed that, but like I said, I didn't prescribe Thyro-L very much, so I can't really tell you that I noticed it. But as I stated, I didn't have a direct observation of horses that were on Thyro-L and having performance enhancement because I did not prescribe it so very often.
Some of the medications listed in your accusation in the world of horse racing, in that industry, some of these are used for performance enhancement. Isn't that true?
Well, performance enhancement has many definitions for different people. For me, most of the medications that we give, like Adequan and that sort of thing, are joint supplements to kind of make them feel their best version of themselves, I guess you'd say. I wouldn't say they're performance enhancing. To me, performance enhancing drugs or more something that are anabolic steroids, which haven't been used on the racetrack for a very long time.
When these horses feel their best, it can minimize pain that's going on in their bodies, right?
Yes, it can. Yes.
And this can lead to horses pushing harder than they normally would on the racetrack or in practice, correct?
It could, but I just want to make a point that there's very strict regulations on non-steroidals in racehorses. They can't be given non-steroidals 48 hours before a race. And so by that time, there isn't hardly any lingering effects from giving a non-steroidal 48 hours or more. Actually, they're probably have been clear of that non-steroidal for about 53 hours. And also for their workouts also, it's the same regulations. They can't have a non-steroidal in their system for a workout. So by that time, they can identify that if the horse is sound enough to perform that workout.
When horses overexert themselves on the track, perhaps pushing beyond their injuries, can this lead to injury?
Yes, and that's why the CRTRB has requirements that each trainer's veterinarian has to do an inspection on the horse before they go out and train and do a workout, and also before they're entered to race to make sure that they're fit. There's also veterinarians on the track that are employed by the state and the racetrack to identify any horses that are lame. And as soon as they're identified, they are sent back to the barn.
Please define lame.
Having an unsoundness issue, maybe an uneven stride.
What happens when a horse at the racetrack injures their leg?
Well, it depends on the extent of the injuries. Most injuries may not show up until a day or two later. Sometimes soft tissue injuries are like that. Though they might come back to the barn just fine, and the next day they the trainer might notice some swelling, and then we're called to examine the horse. If it's a more serious injury, there's horse ambulances, and the vets that are on the racetrack tend to that horse and get it stabilized. And then it's brought to the equine hospital where the private practitioners attending veterinarian will take x-rays, evaluate the horse, and determine the next plan of action depending on what the injury is.
And depending on the circumstances, the horse is euthanized.
The horse could be, but normally, if it's a very serious injury, they may be euthanized on the track because it's not safe to get them into the ambulance. So that does not happen very often. And to tell you the truth, I don't think I've euthanized a horse in the past 3 years on the track myself from an injury. Most injuries now are, and Dr. Carpenter can attest more to that, but most injuries are sesamoid injuries. And if they fracture both their sesamoids, I'd say 99% of them will have a fetlock arthrodesis surgery to save their life.
What is a sesamoid?
A sesamoid is there's 2 sesamoids in the back of the fetlock, which is the ankle joint of the horse. And they're 2 very small bones, but they're very important because they stabilize the fetlock, and also there's soft tissue that is attached to that sesamoid.
Are they vulnerable to injury?
Um, they can be and also other bones are vulnerable to injury, but yes, it's a common injury in the cases that are what am I trying to say?
In the horse racing industry?
Yes, in some areas, yeah, in some states have different injuries depending on you know different. There's just sorry, there's well, I can't really answer that question, I guess. Can you tell me what more do you need?
I guess I was curious about areas. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, so there's some horses, like a young horse that hasn't raced yet, might have like get a tibial stress fracture. That's fairly common in a young racehorse that's just started doing their workouts and hasn't raced. And then there's those sometimes they'll get shin fractures, little dorsal shin fractures. These are all injuries that with time off heal and heal well. Whereas the sesamoids, if they break both their sesamoids, they need surgery to stabilize that fracture.
What are the racetracks that you support?
I work at Santa Anita and then Del Mar in the summertime.
And what days do races take place?
At Santa Anita, they usually take place Friday through Sunday. Some days, if it rains, there's makeup days, and they might race on a Monday or a Thursday, but the regular schedule is to race Friday through Sunday. And at Del Mar, they race Thursday through Sunday.
Sorry to interrupt, counsel. I just want to reflect for the record that the board member, Dr. Maniak, did step out, so he will not be participating in the deliberation or decision-making in this matter. You may continue, counsel, when you're ready.
Earlier, you talked about
non-steroidals, does this fall under non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, also known as NSAIDs?
Yes.
Okay. And this and use of this in racehorses can reduce the horse's pain, correct?
Well, it's actually an anti-inflammatory, and so it's not actually a pain medication, but it is an anti-inflammatory.
So it increases their comfort?
Well, it decreases any inflammation.
And inflammation causes discomfort, I assume?
In some cases, it can.
What's what's the typical therapeutic period for when you are administering phenylbutazone to racehorses?
Sorry.
How long does the horse feel the benefit of that medication?
I would say that the horse probably feels the benefit anywhere from 12 to 24 hours.
I reviewed your administration of phenylbutazone, also known as Bute. And of the 34 times it was administered by you, 11 times it was on a Thursday and 21 times on a Friday, twice on a Monday. Explain that to us.
So typically, some trainers, you can give a shot of Bute or they can feed Bute greater than 48 hours before a race. Because of the testing protocols, we tend to give Bute injections instead of trainers feeding the Bute orally. So, and it's mostly because of clearance times, so they do not get a medication positive. So that's part of the reason why racetrack practitioners in general give more injections to horses IV than like a show horse practice. And it basically has to do with the drug testing clearance times. I would say that I've always discussed with the trainer if this horse would benefit from Bute, and some horses are given the Bute 2 to 3 days before a race. Some horses aren't given anything.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with questioning from the board. As we did on the prior matter, I will call on the board members as on the order they appear in the agenda, starting with Dr. Solicito.
All right, thank you for being here. I guess my question is, on the accusations, there seem to be a lot of cases where it was established that medications were prescribed, dispensed, or administered without an examination. And in your testimony, you did say that you did examination on all these animals. Is this just a matter of not documenting it? And so what have you instituted as a practice now to ensure that you have an examination reflected on your records, which is different from how you were practicing before?
Yes. So yes, it is correct that we did do examinations, and I did form a diagnosis and go over a treatment plan with the trainers, but I did not document it. But now that we have our new practice management system, the VIA, and all of our exams are documented in there. And then And then they're also documented within Equitaps, the CR digital record system. And because every treatment that we put in there, we have to put down the reason, and we can also put down additional notes as well as to why we're prescribing this medication or doing this procedure and what the results were from the procedure, et cetera.
So just for clarification, prior to this, you were not using any software at all?
We were using software, but it was a billing software, and you could not add any notes to that whatsoever. So yeah, it was a very old system, but it would just bill this is what the office told me, because when we were looking for new software, they did contact the company that made their software, and they verified that yes, you cannot add notes and medical records to the current system that we were using. So that's why we changed software systems, so we could do the billing correctly, and also have an area where the doctors can make their notes and do SOAP notes, and yeah, and it's digital, and they can add files, add pictures, et cetera, however far they want to take their notes, they can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that you have changed in your practice that you feel was important after all of these investigations?
Well, I realize the importance of making good medical records for future care of the animal. And also, it's very helpful now that I can look back and say, well, you know, what was the treatment plan at this time? A lot of horses will have like a small injury that they need time off for, and then they'll come back, and now I can refer back to the medical record and find out, what was done to that horse. And also, it's very helpful if the horse goes to another trainer that we don't work for, and you know, if it gets referred out to a referral practice, we have records now that we can send to the referral practice as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Pulowski.
Thank you for being here. You just answered my question through hers, so I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bradbury.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I just was wondering with the the cause of discipline for the falsifying records. So you, just to clarify, you took the confidentials and then you typed those up. Did you add any details to the record at that time when you were typing it up, other than what was just on the confidentials?
To tell you the truth, I can't remember. I do remember that I looked through my confidentials and found horses that I had done small SOAP notes on. And yeah, now I realize that those did not meet the minimum requirements for the Veterinary Medical Board, but I can't remember what was exactly submitted, but I do remember that's how I did those 3 horses, because the records that I originally turned in, they said they didn't want those records.
Okay.
And so,
And then for your continuing education, I think that you had some record keeping, just a few record keeping courses that you had to take. What did you learn about when writing records after the fact or adding to the medical record at another date?
yeah, so I learned to make a separate note, and that's what we have in VIA now. We have a separate note that's called an addendum, and I also have a separate note that's called client communications. So if I go back to that record and look at it and say, oh, this was, not, I needed more of clarification, I could add an addendum, and I'd keep that date, like if it was, I dated it the day that I made that note. And then if I had more client communications, and then I would date it that date that I had the client communication.
Great. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Espinoza?
Good morning, Dr. Canfield. Prior to the violations that were filed against you, how did you keep current on the rules and regulations required under the Practice Act versus those required under the California Horse Racing Board?
To tell you the truth, it wasn't anything that was in the forefront of any veterinarians at the racetrack. It was a complete oversight on our part. I thought that I was doing everything correctly because I was turning in confidential reports to the CRTB state vet the next day, and I had had previous inspections on Canfield equine practice, I think in 2017, and passed that inspection. And I know that the clinic that I work for now, the EMC, had prior inspections also, and nothing was brought to our attention that we needed to change. But now, of course, I'm a member of the CVMA, and I read their articles that they write about new regulations coming to effect or clarifications on any regulations. And if I have any questions, I reach out to the author to kind of get their side of how we practice and how I can make sure that I still comply with the regulations of the Veterinary Medical Board.
What was your understanding as far as what documentation was required to follow the rules and regulations of the California Horse Racing Board?
My understanding was for that we just needed to turn in our confidential reports that put the name of the horse, the trainer, the time the treatment was done, and then the treatment or procedure.
And what type of education do you now have with respect to the requirements under the Practice Act?
I'm sorry, what type of?
Well,
What type of?
previously, I understand your answer to be in your testimony that the focus wasn't really on following the rules and regulations of the Practice Act because it was more focused on the California horse racing rules. Is that fair to say?
Yes, so now I focus on both. I make sure that I'm following what what HISA requires of me, what the CRTB requires me as far as reporting all my treatments. And then I'm also, all those treatments are following the Veterinary Medical Board rules, case of the singlement, the diagnosis, noting our exams, treatment plan, et cetera. So those are all written down in our new system software.
And as you've, I think, become better educated on the requirements of both the Practice Act rules and regulations under the Practice Act and the California horse racing rules and regulations, have you seen any areas of discrepancy or conflict or gray areas that you think could be troublesome to someone who wants to comply with both rules, but maybe there is a conflict that you perceive?
Well, the compounding is a bit, using compounded drugs can be a bit confusing. I no longer use any compounded drugs because of that. I just use chloramphenicol, which is approved for office use. And I haven't written a patient-specific compounding prescription at all. I instead use something that is FDA approved. So, that's how it's changed. But yeah, that's one conflicting thing that was confusing. And at the time when the CRTB put in that FDA only approved drug, I don't think that many veterinarians understood exactly what that entailed to be FDA approved, and they didn't understand, and I didn't understand about manufacturer labels and how a manufacturer might imply that it's FDA approved, but it's not. And that was confusing to myself and a lot of veterinarians.
Could you share with us your insights with respect to the horse racing industry after these violations were found? Have you perceived any change with respect to the recognition that the rules, the Practice Act rules have to be followed and the documentation that's required?
Oh, yes, yes. Our practice, is always striving to make sure that we're following the Veterinary Practice Act and making sure that our medical record has all the requirements that the Veterinary Practice Act requires of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Mitchell.
Thank you for being here today, Dr. Canfield. My question is, beyond meeting all the requirements now of the medical records for the Medical Practice Act and so on, Veterinary Practice Act, what value do you place on that, or does it help your practice when you're continuing to work with these horses?
Oh, yes, definitely. Because now within our practice, I see a few barns on a regular basis, and then if somebody has a day off, then I'll see other barns that I may not see on a daily practice. So I can refer back now and look at the history on that horse and see what the treatment was done, and see what medications it got, and discuss with the trainer and make a treatment plan based on the history as well. So it's been very helpful.
That's good to hear. So it's enhancing
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Is
definitely.
it a lot of extra work, or does it cut down on work when you have all the records, sort of the detail as you look back? You don't have to try to remember or think about it
Uh,
without the record.
yeah, well, it's a lot of extra work to do both the record system, to do our veterinary medical board records that are required in our via software, and do Equitaps. But as far as going back and looking at for history, it's much quicker and much more accurate. Yes.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Let me circle back. Dr. Maniak, did you have any questions? Thank you. And then Ms. Orlowski. Thank you, Dr. Tomlinson.
Yeah. Dr. Canfield, thank you for being here. On your premise registration, Canfield Equine, how many doctors work under that premise registration?
Just myself.
Okay. Do you at Canfield Equine have a separate medical record system from that of EMS, or are you the same?
I have a separate medical record system.
Okay. During your testimony just now, you said that, to paraphrase, on Thursdays, you give a lot of nonsteroidals at the time of the accusations. Is that still the case?
Yes. So, as I discussed before, some trainers, if they're, let's say a horse is going to race on Saturday, some trainers would want to treat the horse with a nonsteroidal on Thursday. Not all trainers do, and some horses are treated earlier in the week. Yeah.
Mhm. So what types of diagnoses would you be finding to indicate that a nonsteroidal is needed on a Thursday?
So we look at the horse, and if they have any musculoskeletal, like any, they might have like a little sore back. They could have a little bit of like a little bit of swelling in the knee or something like that. But they're also having an exam done, and they are found to be sound to continue to race and to enter.
Okay. No further, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now just look around. Yes, go ahead.
Microphone.
It's green. Is it on now? There it is. Okay, the first one is regarding the compounded medications. Since you have stopped using compounded medications, do you feel like you're still able to provide the medications and care that these horses require, or is there any negative effects that you're seeing from not being able to use those?
Well, I'll give you an example. Atropine eye ointment, they no longer make that. And so if I wanted to use atropine eye ointment, I had to get it compounded. I did look on the FDA website, and they've now said that atropine ointment can be used as office stock. The problem with the compounded medications, though, are also the expiration dates are very short, so it's hard to keep that in stock. So I'd have to go to atropine solution, which is a little bit harder to use in a horse's eye. So we just have to make do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you feel like the horses are still getting the majority of the time appropriate care without
Yes.
them? Okay, so you just figured out other ways.
Correct.
Great, thank you. The second one was just kind of regarding the last question about Butte. And in your response, you said some trainers want to use it before the race and other trainers don't. So are the trainers asking you for medications and you're giving it to them, or like explain the way that was worded?
So before they're entered into a race, we do exams on them. And so we go over the horse and see if they palpate their legs, flex their legs, make sure that they look that they're sound to enter this race. And some horses, it's mostly they might have a sore back when we palpate the back. They might have, like I said, a little. Some horses also will get little nicks and scrapes on their legs, and they might have a little swelling on their leg. They are very prone to having pastern dermatitis, and that'll make scabs on the back of their pastern that we have to treat with ointments, but it'll always cause a little local inflammation. And so treating them with nonsteroidals helps that inflammation.
So how often do you, if a trainer says, I think my horse needs Butte or a vitamin jug or whatever, how often do you say, I don't think so, I'm not going to prescribe that?
I say that often.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Let me just look around once more. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none. Did you have any further testimony you wish to provide?
No, I do not.
And Ms. Tesson, any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Doctor, did you have any other witnesses you wish the board to hear from?
No, I do not.
Other than the documents you submitted with your petition, do you have any other documents you wish the board to review?
No.
I will now ask if the matter is submitted, meaning that you've had a full opportunity to present the evidence you wish to present, and that the matter is handed over to the board for their determination. Is the matter now submitted?
Yes.
Council matter submitted?
I'd like to ask one more question. Apologies.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. You're still under oath. Go ahead and ask the question.
When you are administering Butte, the examinations and the timing of this is designed to be as close to the 48-hour ending of the window that can be given, correct?
Correct. The exams that we do are valid. You can do. Yeah, they can't. They're supposed to be done before 48 hours, and they have like a 1 to 3 day window of doing that exam. And most of my exams are done 72 to 48 hours before the horse races.
And by design, do you, oh, apologies. Is it your approach to, as close as you can, as much as you can, get closer to the 48-hour mark than the 72-hour mark
For the examination or
the administering of Butte?
I try to get as far away from the 48-hour mark as I can.
Why?
Uh, because I like to see how if the horse is sound. So some horses, you know, if the horse is sound, the butte isn't going to. It's sorry. Can you rephrase your question? Sorry.
Sure. You were explaining why you trend towards administering the butte closer to 72 hours prior to the race rather than 48.
Oh, well, it's mostly has to do with drug clearance times to make sure that there's no medical violations. And then also, it also gives us an opportunity to make sure that the horse is sound after the butte is given and is, you know, is still sound at 72 hours, still sound at 48 hours, still sound at 24 hours.
Thank you.
Since there's been some further testimony, let me just double check to make sure board had no follow-up questions. Seeing none, and any further follow-up you wish to give, ma'am? Okay. Let me go back to the prior question, which is the matter submitted? Is the matter now submitted?
Yes.
Matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, the matter is submitted, the record is closed, and we are off the record. Thank you, Dr. Canfield, for your time today. I will now pass it over to the chair to put us into closed session.
Okay, so we are now going into closed session and adjourn the open session.
You're going to recess open session?
Oh, reset open session. Okay, let me clarify. We're going into closed session and then we are going to have the open session on recess. Thank you.
Thank you. Free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience while we.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no,
dealt with
it's understandable. Thank you.
Always confused about that. Yeah, you have
Closed
to
session.
recess